birthday party. It was Bob Gallen's birthday party. His wife's birthday party, I gather.
Oh, let me get back over the other side. I didn't see your response.
Okay, then as far as when we get to it, I'll bring you up to speed of part of it, and then we'll probably table something part of that as well.
Okay, dokie, I'll get over there now. You're making me work the computer. I haven't worked the computer this hard since I worked.
Maybe you should upgrade from a Commodore 64.
Okay. My wife has to be nice to me. I have to pick her up tomorrow night.
It's 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock, I pick her up midnight.
Okay. I want to welcome everyone to the Rockland Sewer Commission meeting tonight. This open meeting is broadcast live on youtube.com and WRPS Rockland, and is being recorded by WRPS. In attendance tonight from the Rockland Sewer Commission is Mr. Dan DeRoss, Ms. Sherry Valley, and myself, Chuck Hession. Dave Taylor will not be with us tonight due to a prior commitment, and he has asked, and if we could move the meetings to Wednesday evenings for the balance of the summer. And I don't believe anybody had a problem with that. Sherry, you didn't have a problem, right?
That's
Yeah.
fine.
Okay, with that, I'll entertain a motion to open the meeting.
Motion?
Second,
Second. All in favor, Mr. DeRoss,
I,
Ms. Valley,
Yes.
and Mr. Hession is a yes. That is unanimous. We did not receive minutes from the previous meetings. Robin, how are we going to catch up on those?
I'm working on it. It's just, when I
Yep.
had that personal issue, that was 4 days. I got stuck in Ireland. That was another extra 4 days. So
Hey, what you're working on it is good enough for me. If you need any help with it, let me know.
thank you.
Abatements.
Actually, was there the drain layer first?
Oh, okay. How you want to take it? Drain layer first.
Yep, I have a drain layer for Alliance Utilities and Excavation. They're out of Bedford, Massachusetts. They paid the fees. They supplied all the paperwork. They had more than enough references. They work for the Commonwealth. David called them and everything is in order. So I would ask for their approval on that.
And I would make a motion that we approve them for a drain layers license in town. Do I have a second?
second,
All in favor, Mr. DeRoss,
yes.
Ms. Valley,
Yes.
and Mr. Hession's a yes.
Thank you. So I do have an abatement. So this particular resident has well water, which we measure to then bill her for sewer. She had her service replaced, and when they installed it, it was installed incorrectly. David Taylor went over and inspected it, and it was backwards, and it wasn't recording properly. So the company that she used redid the system, and they gave her a letter stating the same, and now it's working properly. David inspected it again. So when it wasn't working properly, typically she has about 4,000 in consumption, cubic feet, and it was up to 12. So I averaged that out. And I'm sorry, we charged her $738.35. Typically we would charge her about $225. So based on that average, the abatement would be $513.37.
I have no problem with that. I'll make a motion. We approve that abatement for $513.37. Do I have a second?
Second,
All in favor, Mr. DeRoss,
yes.
Ms. Valley,
Yes.
Mr. Hession is a yes.
Thank you very much.
New connection requests. I had Place for Lovell Academy down. I guess that was just a communication mix up on my part. I thought David reached out to him. It wasn't. So They had said that they will go septic. I just wanted to give them a opportunity as a hearing to explain that even if we could give them one, they're at least 6 months to 8 months out. In all reality, I think it's 8 months to a year by the time we get that I&I out. But they are not on tonight. Primrose School. I want to read something into the record. And this is my feelings based on a executive session with the Board of Selectmen and Land Use Council. Okay, as far as Primrose, I want to say that there were a number of bad decisions made by people who did not have the authority or responsibility to do so. With that said, a building permit was issued last August after the moratorium was passed, and that was with the understanding that the sewer would not be a problem. That developer began construction, and then when this matter came up that those people did not have the authority to grant that, it became a potential liability for the town, and it would have been a costly matter for the town. Now, we checked with the EPA, explained the situation to them, and we've mutually decided it was best in interest in all parties to let this one connect to the sewer system rather than go through costly legal discussions. To the board members, you were present. So with that said, I'm requesting that the Board of Sewer Commissioners pass the Primrose School project with the full understanding of all future applicants and the town. There will be absolutely no further additional flow allowed into the system until the sewer department meets its validated corrective actions in the board's response to the EPA order. Dan, Sherry, you were there. Do you have any comments you want to add?
I do.
Go ahead.
I would like to say there are unusual circumstances around this project's permit approval. I agree it's in the best interests of the town to allow this as an exception to the moratorium. To be clear, this is not setting an example. The normal process is for the fees to be paid and then the superintendent would inspect the connection. So I would suggest that the fees be verified again to be clear on what is owed. I would decline to accept any additional gift amounts. And then once the correct fees are paid and the inspection is satisfactory, I would vote to allow the hookup.
I'm glad you brought that portion up, Sherry. That leads to my the conundrum I found myself in. Dan, do you want to add anything before I comment on that?
I agree with Sherry 100% what she said about everything. And I swear they knew about the problem we were having.
Well, I don't want to get into that.
Yeah,
Dan.
I know that.
I think the three of us are in unity, and united in our feelings on the matter and how it transpired. The issue that I have wrestled with personally is that I have an ethics problem. I don't want to say ethics problem. I think I have a personal moral problem with the fees. I mean, we had at the time it came down, we had a fee basis. Things went on that assumption of that fee basis. I think accepting quote unquote gifts from potential applicants for connection is a bad message to send, because some applicants can afford it, other applicants cannot afford it. I'm making a motion that the board, that we again pass Primrose, but I'm asking that you pass it with the fees that were in place at the time of the application.
I would agree with that.
Okay, with that, I'll accept the motion to pass Primrose connection upon payment of the fees.
And I would like to see those fees in writing.
Absolutely. But I'm making a motion that we pass the Primrose for connection. And I want to add one more thing to that at the end of this, that but we pass the Primrose connection to the sewer system with the fees applicable at the time of the application. and no connection is to be made until those fees are paid in full. Do I have a second on that?
Second,
All in favor of the Primrose connection? Mr. DeRoss,
yes.
Ms. Valley,
Yes,
Mr. Hessian is a yes. What I want to stress to the audience is that there is a moratorium in place. By no means and by no stretch of the imagination am I wavering on the moratorium. Again, there was unusual circumstances that we were not aware of until April of this year, early April. It's not going to affect the moratorium. I'll have a little something to say on the moratorium later. But I think collectively, the board made it clear to the town that we are not selling connections. There will be no further connections until the issue of the EPA order is finalized. And there is one, we had mentioned not a condition, but a recommendation that we had made and discussed on that will play into that a little later. So with that said, I will authorize Mr. Attorney Land Use Counsel Galvin to notify Counsel for Primrose that they have a connection. With that,
I'm sorry, excuse me.
yes.
Is that the usual order of things, or does the superintendent?
Well, I've talked to Mr. Galvin earlier, and he wanted me to let him know how the vote goes. So what I'll tell him is how the vote goes. He can work it out with Dave.
Okay,
I know.
thank you.
I think right now it's in the hands of the two attorneys. So I think, Sherry, you agree with that?
I do. I think it
So I
would be
think
best.
it's best to let Bob Galvin handle the communication from this point.
Okay, so Primrose has attorneys. All right, so Bob Galvin's to notify the Primrose attorneys.
Bob's
Okay,
going to call me tomorrow morning.
all right, thank you.
And before we move on, when
Go ahead,
will,
Terry.
before we move on, when will the commissioners see that fees that are being presented to them?
I won't know till Bob talks to Mr. Bobrowski. And I don't imagine I'll hear from Bob tomorrow. I'll put an email to him tonight. I know he's out. It's his wife's birthday. Hopefully I'll hear from him Monday. But is Monday a holiday?
Yes, it is. It's a federal holiday,
So I'll
Juneteenth.
probably hear from him on Tuesday. Maybe he'll send me something over the weekend. And what I'll do is on the email, I'll have him CC you and Dan.
Yes,
That way it's not coming from me.
What's the holiday?
Juneteenth. It's a new federal holiday.
All right,
I was talking to the guys at work, and they told me they're not off.
all right, well,
working.
that's a union issue.
Yeah.
Uh,
The
Okay, the next item is the EPA visit, the status and the corrective action response. On the EPA, we were issued a draft consent order. I will tell you that it was a strict order. It's everything we expected. But I'm going to read this in. We have received the draft order. It's strict, but demonstrate one thing in a meeting, that the EPA is willing to work with us as long as we comply with our submitted corrective actions. Once we have that submitted response and it is accepted, I'm going to hold a separate open meeting to discuss the draft order, its impact to the town, and the sewer department's corrective actions. That's really all I can say on that. The draft order came to the town. We all know how it was handled. It went to the attorneys, the two attorneys for EPA and Rockland. I had communications. Our attorneys took the board's recommendation, my recommendations in for corrective actions, submitted them. I think Chris said the 8th. And I think we're going to hear next week. So the second I hear that back, I'll notify the board and I will hold a public meeting, an open public meeting to go over it. That's all I can go into with that one. The status, let me see, wait a minute. There is some, okay, I&I, Dave was going to go over, if everyone remembers, one of the things we're committing to is removing that 67,500 gallons of I&I to approved connections. That's one of the corrective actions I can take, and hopefully, I'm sure they will accept that before we allow any more to go out. Now, what we asked Dave at the last meeting is from the ACOM SES study is prepare a scope of work to go out to bid to 3 or 4 companies in a sealed bid to be opened at the August meeting. So that still goes. Now, one thing I want to emphasize, no other connections are going to be allowed, at least unless I'm overruled by the board. And because it's a vote, in my opinion, and I think the EPA is going to buy in until that 67,500 come out. Now, based on that work in the EPA draft we got, once we received that they accept that draft order, Dan, Sherry, I think what we should do is take that order and work it into our moratorium. Because I think we're going to have that next week. We'll take that order once we release it to the public and get some comment on it, then work our moratorium around that for an amendment to be passed in September. There's no way this work is going to be done before 6 or 8 months, 10 months. So I'm sure it's not going to be done by April. So we got till really April to revise that moratorium. But I'd like to get kicking on that as soon as we can.
Chuck, I would request we have a special working meeting.
Yeah, no, I absolutely want on that one there, because I think trying to work through a moratorium on this forum is kind of funky. I think we get too cluttered up. I think what I'd like to do is, in unison with us, in an open meeting, that working session, with no public input, come down with a document that we feel makes a good moratorium, and then present that in one meeting. Be able to distribute copies of it to the public for review. Say, okay, here's what we're going to be discussing. What I have to say on that. Department website, Sherry, you got my email on that letter?
Say that again?
Did you get my response, that email to you on the letter?
I don't recall.
Okay, what I would like to do to save us time, Terry, the draft letter you wanted to send on the newsletter,
Yes.
what I'd like to do is table that. I think you're on the right idea, but I think what I want to do is have further discussion with you and Dan rather than just lob that one. But what I would like you to do is, if you put over the website, that information that you need in yellow,
Yes.
that's easy to find. That's in the original Wright Pierce report. And if you want me to fill those specifics in for you, I could do that tonight.
Is there a handout of what you're speaking about? And I think it should be funneled through the sewer department, not directly between you guys, if it's a working document.
So I want to say a couple meetings ago, I had requested a draft was distributed to the commissioners. What I'm suggesting is the sewer department has a page on the town's website, and I would like to update some of that information. So I gave a draft out, and the reason I didn't, I'm not going to read it or include it, is because there are a lot of corrections that are needed on it. So I'm more looking for accurate information before we release it to the public. Once that's done, really all of the verbiage is going to do is replace the web page. Is going to be a high level overview of why the EPA is interested in our operations and permit, and also a high level overview of the treatment plant facility and the upgrade plan. This is just basic information on the web page. I've looked at other towns' websites and just felt that we could probably update it.
Sure, why don't you put it, since it's not going to be voted on right now, why don't you send a copy to Robin tomorrow? Her and Dave know what we're talking about.
Absolutely, not a problem.
Okay, it's just a generic update. I think it's
it's just very generic.
I think you're missing part of my point is that it's fine that you're doing that, and I think it's a great idea, but if you and Chuck work together and you're not doing it in an open meeting law and you're doing it via email and drafts of documents, that's a violation of the open meeting law. That's the point I'm trying to make. So you mentioned earlier a working group on something else. You probably want a working group on this as well, because you're in violation
Oh, all right. I was just looking for correct information.
And you know,
Okay.
in Sherry's
Okay.
defense, Robin, that just came out today, late today. And so she sent it out thinking we'd be discussing it tonight. I
Right,
think,
and I think it's a great idea, but I'm just saying, if you're going back and forth with each other, I don't think that's the great idea.
oh, no, there was
Okay.
no going back, there was no going back and
No.
forth. But I want to thank you for that because it is a good point and I don't want to get burned on that again. So let's bring that up, put that on an item that you want, because I was going to bring that up, those working sessions that you wanted as well.
Okay.
And I guess where we're on it, let me see where if I tuck that in. I have that on my notes. While we're on it, we might as well do it. What I was going to recommend is that next week's going to be a short week. The week after is also a short week. Why don't we pick out one day starting the first week of, if you and Dan are available, and Robin's available, say the 6th or the 7th of July, or we start the week of the 11th, pick out a day in the middle of the week. Say around 2 o'clock, we could meet at the sewer department. It would be an open meeting, no public input. But just, I figure for an hour and a half, maybe every other week, we get together like that, just to hammer out some of these long-term items that, rather than tie up a meeting at night like this.
I totally agree with that.
Okay, so why don't,
Can I say something?
sure.
Yeah.
I'm already struggling to keep up with the minutes that we have because we're having more meetings than just the once a month. This will make even more meetings, and during the day, it will take away from my time doing sewer work and participating in the meeting and then doing the minutes. So I wonder if anybody might put some thought into how we can, I just can't stretch my time. So I don't know if any of you might have an idea on how we can accomplish what you want.
Let me ask you this, Robin. I don't think it's a violation of the open meeting law because we were allowed to do it last week.
Oh,
How about-
yeah, but
how
that's
about if
fine.
let me finish. How about if we record them? And between the three of us, we rotate writing them up in written format, just in those working session meetings.
I don't know if you guys as commissioners can take minutes.
Okay. That's
But,
what I
you
don't
know,
I'm asking.
I do appreciate their creative thinking, and that's what I'm hoping, that we can come up with some solution, just because I am so pressed for time.
Okay, well, let's work out that we have this to talk about. We can record them. Robin, how about helping us out? Could you think you could figure out, work away and maybe talk to somebody how they'd handle it?
Yeah, of course.
If the commissioners can't do it, and if you're that backed up, I know you've got at least 4 meetings to catch up on.
Right, and I posted March, so I should only have 2 meetings, but I already have 4. And if you guys add another meeting during the workday every other week, that takes away from my work at the sewer department, and I'd have to, do you know what I'm saying?
I understand that, but I didn't know that we couldn't help out. Okay, let me work with Chris Kenny as well, and reach out to him, tell him what we want to do, and see what they recommend.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Okay, let me write that down.
I just don't want you to feel disappointed, but I know I'd be like crazy strapped.
Oh, no, wait a minute. I got to keep a running tally of senior moments. Okay. But unfortunately, I think Sherry's right. I think we need these. We've got a lot we got to get out of the way here to just get caught up. Okay, with that said, approve the postings of the permit waiting list in the department. As far as I am concerned right now, the only ones we have pending is 320 Concord Street. They're the only ones that have come before us.
You have a list that's already published on there. Do you have a copy of it?
Yeah, but they have been before us. I mean, we could, and that list doesn't give any kind of a date. I mean, those people can come in. But
So
until they come to us, it's when it would be positioned on the list as far as who comes first. I mean, if we just go on who shows on that build list would be, think of it, would be tying up Union Point is still on there. A.W. Perry's still on there. We can't tie everyone up. So I thought we decided that until they come in, at least that was my assumption, they don't go on the pending list until they come in.
Okay, so the list that we had that we posted has Shingle Mill, then it has 365 Concord.
355 is approved.
So,
365 Beechwood are approved, and so is Primrose. Why?
Okay, so
again, I think we need to take some time and look at this list and make sure that it's accurate and that we understand what we're putting on the list, what we're using it for.
right, I don't mind
it seems
updating
like-
the list.
It seems like there's multiple versions going around.
Actually, there's one version on our webpage.
Right.
So that's probably one that, since that's one we shared with the public, we should probably work from that one, I would suggest anyway.
I would like to make sure that it's accurate and that it has the information that we need.
Okay.
I agree.
The current one that's on the website. Robin, if you would send that out to Dan, Sherry, and I tomorrow. And that's the one we'll work on for next meeting. All right.
Sure.
I would take any reference to Union Point, Shingle Mill off of that, A.W. Perry off of that. They've not come in with a plan. There's no plans on the table. If they don't have a plan in there, there's no sense in being on a list.
Can I speak?
No, wait a minute, Mary, please.
Oh,
It's about Union Point.
Okay, wait a minute. No, let's get through this first. Hold off to the end if you would. But the build list that we have has numerous people that have not even come in with plans yet. That's what we're trying to get through. Correct me if I'm wrong, Sherry, Dan, didn't we say until they come in with the plan?
right.
Yes.
That's right.
No, everyone that's been approved is approved and is going to connect. The only one that I know that have come in that has
And
not
then,
been approved is 320.
well,
Correct?
they're going on this wait list, the moratorium wait list.
Right, because they've come in, they've made their presentation. We haven't voted on it yet. That'll be next month.
So does that mean that they would move to the number one slot on the list? Because right now they're number 6.
Well, I think that's part of the discussion that we need to have on this wait list.
Okay.
A lot of people on there because they got on that build out list. Anybody, think of it, you could technically be on that list since 2015, which Union Point was.
Yeah.
But that makes no sense of them tying up flow while we're struggling. But why don't you get that list out to us tomorrow?
So do you want me to give you the build list as well? Because I was talking about the waiting list for connections. Do you need both? Because there's only 6 people on the waiting list, but there's a lot more people on the build list. So do you need both?
No, let's just give the waiting list.
Okay.
You agree, Sherry, you agree, or
That's fine. Yep.
Dan?
Yeah. It's good.
Because I'm sure we can call that right out.
Okay. I'll send it out tomorrow to you guys.
Thank you. Robin,
Yes.
when you send them out, can you just say they have submitted plans or have not? Final plans,
Okay.
final plans, okay. And if there's Form Ks with them, that as well. Okay. Superintendent's position update. As you know, the 2 applicants we really had took other positions. I've asked to run the ad again, and what I'm going to do is request in one of those working sessions, we take a good hard look at that superintendent job description and see if we can banter about other ideas, alternatives, what have you, go into it with a fresh mind and let's see what we want to do with that. And I think that should be on the number one date we have a working session. And for new business on the July meeting, I'm going to ask Mr. Galvin to comment on our ordinance modifications. I don't think he has any recommendations. I think he, I think he agreed with them. Hopefully, we're going to have the EPA. We can have that open meeting on that. And I want to discuss the interim superintendent's new fee proposal. I think that warrants a good look at. I have a couple of questions on it, but I think that warrants a look. The other thing, Robin, I'm probably going to ask to have 320 Concord Street come in again for a vote.
For the July meeting?
Yep.
Okay.
That'll be 60 days for them. And if you could, make sure they know that we're probably still leaning toward a separate manhole. Independent manhole, so they prepared to discuss it anyway. Not, they don't have to change their mind, but give us a good reason why they won't.
Yep. Okay. Is that the project where it was the shared?
Yes.
Halfway down? Okay.
Yes, with the easement. I don't want to put any burden on the current residents. Okay, Dave is out. So I'm going to jump over to Rick. I will have, Mary, I will have a public forum, so don't worry. Rick, if you want to give us your update, the big thing I'm going to want to discuss would be on the digester boiler. But why don't you start out with the MOR?
Sure. Okay, so as far as the May 22 MOR that I sent to the board, we had no permit violations. The flow was 2.1 and the rain was a little over an inch. I believe our rolling average is right around 3.0 as we stand at end of May. The next item is the phosphorus update. Currently, at the average for April and May, we did make the 0.01. But with that being said, obviously my chemical usage is up. My ferric is up to get to that number, and a little surprised my lime is up. I mean, typically with the lime, ferric chloride, it has basically a negative 2.0 pH. So I anticipated using more lime, but it's losing a lot more to get the pH up to the level that we need in the aeration system, and so we don't violate our final effluent pH.
The thing I'm concerned with, Rick, just to not to interrupt you, but with that increased lime and ferric is the corrosion on that up at that clarifier.
Yep.
The other thing too is we really haven't hit any hot months.
No. So like I said, we're 2 months into this, so it's still early. Some of the things I'm concerned about, like I said, the price of the chemicals, and then of course, like you said, Chuck, as we get into the summer months, the flows should go down, which means the strength of the wastewater is going to go up. That's just how it works, and so I could be using even more chemicals. And as you did correctly point out, ferric chloride is extremely corrosive. And it can and will do further damage to the system right now. But again, like we said, the EPA is requiring us to do this study for 7 months. We'll do it, and then in November we'll have the final report, and then we can send it along to the EPA and DEP, and with all the results, and see what they say.
Well, Rick, one of the things I'm not sure if Dave informed, one of the concessions, excuse me, that I've asked for on the that order, excuse me 1 minute, was that a lot of this, to comply with this order, is going to have, naturally everything comes with a price. What I've asked them to consider is back ending the phosphorus to the end of our permit, 24, 25, 26. If anything, that'll give you some breathing room. Right. Will they go along with that? I don't know, but just so you're aware, okay, that's one of the things I've done. And the one thing I want to point out to Sherry and Dan, if you read that, the Wright PS facility report, the areas they were, one of the areas they had concern with for failure, Rick, correct me if I'm wrong, was the clarifiers, which is where that ferric and that would impact.
Right.
And some of that, I mean, the thing that cracked me up the most of it was that gate. Remember the day we saw the gate and the concrete lifting?
Right. So, yeah, so it starts really at the aeration system. I mean, that's where we're having all problems currently with the, like I've said before, a lot of the valve, not a lot, most of the gate valves do not close. I'm afraid to close them because good chance I'll never open them back up again because of how corrosive ferric is. So yeah, it works. I 100% it works to get for phosphorus removal, but there's long-term repercussions of using it.
What about the sludge vendors? Are that you hearing anything like last year, them shutting down or?
No, I mean, last year when they did that, that was due to a, I think
COVID?
they had an emergency at Synagro. And so
Yeah.
right now, nothing, I haven't heard anything as far as that goes.
Ballpark wise, what are you looking at for price increases in your chemicals? Just an overall percentage wise.
Well, we went up, we actually put that into our contract in January, and in January, it went up 17%. So now the next new number I'm waiting for, which is part of our current O&M agreement, is the CPI for my sludge. Typically that I'll get that in July. So I don't know what that's going to go up. It's with CPI being extremely high right now. We could see a drastic increase in sludge costs.
Okay.
We'll know better in probably sometime mid-July. Okay, the next item I have is the digester boiler. As of right now, the contractor continued working over there. They're replacing the water lines. I talked to the contractor, probably about another 7 to 10 days, that should be done. And then they're going to start demobilizing what they'll do after they finish all the water lines, they're going to install the temporary boiler. So that'll keep the digester up and running. Once they do that, then we're going to have to look at the gas lines. Dave is actually reached out to Hallam, who is the town's engineer on that project, and he's waiting for a scope of work to replace the digester piping. So this is a new one. Obviously, we knew about the boiler, so we're working on the boiler. But what happened was when we had the town of Rockland gas inspector came in, he doesn't like it's the methane pipes. It's throughout the whole digester. So as of right now, again, Dave's waiting for a scope of services. Unfortunately, those are going to have to get replaced. And I know Dave's working on funding, but again, as soon as he hears back from Hallam, I believe they'll have a scope and with prices, and then we'll go from there.
Rick, I'm not going to. It's water under the bridge, and I'm not going to do it. But I have a problem, and I'm going to tell you, because I went back in April of 20 and as May of 21, I asked everybody, why aren't we replacing the gas lines? It was even in the minutes. You have a boiler that's old. To me, if you're going to look at the boiler, we should have looked at the gas lines. And I was told by the former superintendent, and I want to make sure that these, and I almost had a stroke when I went back and looked at this, because these are in the minutes, that the cost would be 250 to 300,000 on the gas lines. Is that real?
I honestly don't know. I really don't know, because that has to be stainless steel.
Who was the company that did the boiler? Hallam?
Hallam's the engineer.
Did they come in and physically look at that boiler before they began work?
Hallam did, yes. Hallam came in. Yep, they
Did
walked.
not pick up on that gas lines.
I don't know that. Like I said, I think
for that kind of money, and I'm not being disrespectful to you. I think the town people that are paying this, footing this bill, we all know the money we've lost down here in the past. I think we've got to ask the question, how this get through the cracks.
Right.
Now, and I'm definitely going to be asking if it's in the $200,000 range. But to me, you had a boiler that was decrepit, to say the least, and I know I've seen patches on it, and I let it go, and not saying you let it go, but I ignore them, which I'm probably just as fault because I should have been more emphatic on it. But I would have hoped that the vendor who looked at it said, oh, okay, those patches are good. There's no reason to go any further. And again, I'm not singling you out, but
Right.
someone's going to have to answer the question, were those lines not looked at when it was brought up twice in the past?
And yeah, to answer your question, I don't even think they even looked at that. I think initially all we were concerned about was the digester boiler was not functioning properly. And so we went after the boiler. No one really thought, we all thought, hey, the lines are still great. I mean, at least in good shape, until obviously we started doing more inspection. And then we realized that the gas piping needs to replace. But you're right. I think the whole thing should have been done probably as one large capital.
No, I'm just wondering how it slipped through the cracks, because if you got an ancient boiler, you're going to have ancient lines.
Right.
And if there's wear and tear in the boiler, that same corrosion is going to reflect in the lines. And again, all I'm doing this is I'm going to tell you as a taxpayer, I'm going to wonder how that got through, because let's face it, we have the boiler that we need on the digester. And guess what? We need a new cover.
Yes.
That
That's true.
cover is going to be $300,000.
If not more.
Yeah. So
If not more.
all I'm saying is that you got a board now that's going to be looking into details of where this money's going.
Right.
I'm not mad at you. I'm just giving you a heads up. I'm going to be questioning that. I'm sorry. Go ahead. How about staffing?
Okay, staffing, I'm still down one person right now. I actually had a meeting today with Veolia, and we use a company called Smart Recruiters. And I met with the gentleman today. He has two applicants, and he said he was going to reach out to them and just wait and see right now. I mean, this is just incredible. I think it's just not at Rockland everywhere. I mean, when I used to, in previous years, when I had to replace an individual, I would get 40, 50 resumes. It was just incredible. You couldn't keep up with them. I'm getting one or two. I mean, it's just, I don't know. I don't know. I don't understand the economy. I don't understand
Well, our economy
why
is
people aren't
growing if
working.
you're watching the news.
What's that? I'm sorry.
The economy is growing if you're watching the news.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Well,
No, we're not alone on that. Let me tell you.
no, we're not. It's everywhere. I mean, you can go to your local coffee shop, restaurants. You see it. That's just, you wonder why there's these open tables, and it's just because they don't have the staffing. But we are working on it, and hopefully I'll have I don't want to just select any person. I want to make sure I get the right fit.
Now Dan leaves next month.
Dan leaves next month. Yep.
That'll
So I'll be down. Yeah, I'll be down two. I mean, right now I've got another manager in right now helping us out from one of our other facilities. So she's been there about 2 months now, but she's only temporary. Obviously, I need to get 2 full-time employees. And like I said, anybody, I'm looking for help on this call.
We are too.
Yeah. So.
Excuse me, Chuck.
Yeah.
I just realized that I had a note from David on that boiler status piping update.
Mhm.
He said it's going to be put out to bid. He's working with Hallam to create a scope for the gas piping.
Yeah. No, I figured it would have to go at that kind of money, Rob. My only question is how did it slip through the cracks before when it was brought up twice in the past?
Right.
That's the thing that's got me, because we go to town meetings, we ask people for $300,000. Granted, it came through in a grant, okay, but we have a lot of other items we need, and we can't afford to let little things like, and I wouldn't mind if no one had brought it up, but the thing was brought up.
Yeah.
I just wonder how they missed it.
Well, maybe it was the disconnect because of, our staffing changes with the superintendents. I'm not sure.
No, this has been going on for a couple of years on it, but Rick, how long are we talking about the boiler?
Oh, it's been years.
3 years?
Yeah. I think a lot of times we were trying to keep the costs down. It's like, hey, what's the most important? Boiler. Okay, so we concentrate on the boiler. Prior to that, we did the heat exchanger because those weren't working correctly. So we did the heat exchanger. We did that.
We got to say, forget the cost right now. We got to look at what is the project, get the whole project cost, and look at what all the ramifications are. Let's not just focus on piecemeal, and everything has an impact.
Right.
Everything affects something else. Let's look at what the whole thing would cost, then say, okay, if we don't do this, this is what's going to happen. At least we could plan. Let's face it, we didn't count on this.
No.
Okay. So that's, again, all I want to say on that. I'm sure Dave's looking into it, because at that kind of money, it's going to have to go out to sealed bid.
Oh, yeah. No, Dave and I talked about it. He's, like I said, he's just waiting for Hallam.
Now, is that something, that work, can that be done in the winter?
No, because what they would do with the gas piping, they could run it right along the existing piping. And then at some point, you just make the connection. You'd
Okay,
have
so
to
you're
shut
not going to
the-
total replace.
Yeah, shut the digester off
Okay, I follow.
and vent the building and then just make the connection.
Okay, I follow. Okay, thanks.
That's all I have, Chuck.
Okay. And people who heard Rick's number, I'm not going to be a Debbie Downer, but remember that they're also saying the month of May, we're down 4 inches of rain. So let's look at this as a blessing. We're not over.
And, with that final, with my final comment on this, I definitely understand the cost of the digester. Like you said, we've replaced the cover needs to be replaced. We're working on the boiler. We got the piping, and I think the whole thing is very expensive, but at the same point, that is a major asset for the town and its residents, because that reduces our sludge by more than 50%.
Oh, yeah.
So, and it's
And again-
unfortunate, it's all got to get replaced at the same time.
But it down the road, I'm looking at too, Rick, that the way the Mass DEP and EPA are going with these regulations, sludge disposal is going to get tougher.
Yep.
There is an industry out there for recycled sludge. So, I mean, those digesters could fit into a nice revenue making, to offset costs for the town. So, yeah, like Ed, you and I, Rick, Ed and I used to go back and forth when we saw that PS report. One of the things they were saying is get rid of the digesters. And I think the three of us just rocked back and said, whoa, wait on that one.
Yeah. And the biggest thing right now, and I think everyone knows, keep hearing that evil word PFAS. And
Yeah.
they just came out with more regulations. I believe it was today or yesterday. And, and there's big concern. That's why we're going to have to start sampling our effluent and the sludge to see how much PFAS is actually in the whole treatment system, because the treatment system is not designed to remove PFAS.
Yeah, none of them are.
There's going to be a lot of unknowns.
Yeah, but the thing too, that's in our current permit, but
Yes, it is now, the new one.
yeah, but
Absolutely.
we have some wiggle room in there.
Yeah. So,
No, it's not going to get cheaper to run this.
no, absolutely not.
And like I said, Rick, I am not shooting you. I think, and I'm getting sick of hearing myself saying, but I feel damn lucky to have you guys. I mean, that equipment looks fantastic, and unless you really knew what you're looking at, you wouldn't think it's as bad as it is. You guys do a remarkable job.
Yeah, correct. Well, thank you for that.
But it doesn't negate the fact that, let's face it, it's at the end of its line.
Right. Yep. Agreed.
Okay, with that said, Sherry, any comments you'd like to make?
Yes, Rick, quick question. Do we have any updates on the effluent meter?
Yes, effluent meter. So I've got, let's see, I've got 2 quotes. I'm waiting for one more. And then at that point, Dave and I will make the decision. We're kind of leaning on one right now that we both like. And then him and I are going to go to the Brockton wastewater treatment plant. So they have an exact system set up already over there. And David, I think he was going to actually reach out to the superintendent over there, because it's for the municipality. And so that way we can, it's nice to see it in working versus a salesman coming to you and said, hey, it's going to work, So
Yeah.
we are planning that in the next couple of weeks.
That'd be great.
And those quotes include all the labor and all the
Yes.
peripherals.
Well, yes. Well, right now, yes, it includes all the equipment, and some of the town, actually, David's going to have the town dig the trench, so there'll be no cost. And that includes electrical, everything.
Thank you.
That's going out back, right? At the
Yes.
district point?
Yeah, that's the one that's going to go right to the stream.
Are they going to have to build a housing unit?
No, we're going to actually put it right in our existing sodium bisulfite building.
Oh, okay.
So we'll save some money there.
Anything else, Sherry?
Nope, that's it. Thank you.
Dan?
No, I have nothing to say.
Well, as far as me, that's all I can say is that I wish I had more to give people on the EPA. And second, the very second we get the green light, and we hear something, I will be the first to schedule a meeting, an open meeting, and divulge everything. I will tell you, they could have come down a lot harder on us. They came down hard, but they've demonstrated that they're willing to work with this group. I think we stress the fact that they have a new board in town that's going to pay attention. With that said, I'll turn it open to the public. Please restrict comments to the meeting subject matter or suggest agenda items for our discussion in the next meeting. If no one wants to ask a question, I'll take a motion to close the meeting. Mary, you want to make that motion?
No, I have a question. I actually don't have a question. I have a statement. You mentioned Union Point. Union Point should be off of your list because Union Point, by law, has to have the master developer procure and finance water and sewer. That means they go find, and the preferred sewer is MWRA. So unless things change quite a bit, they shouldn't even be on your list.
I understand that. That's why I want to purge that list. There's a few things that shouldn't be on there. And
Not Union Point.
there's a few things that shouldn't be on there.
Not Union Point.
They shouldn't.
And everyone needs to know that the Delahunt Parkway is not a town road, that the water and sewer was put in by the state. It isn't even a state road. It is owned by the Southfield Redevelopment Authority, period. And the Spencers were paid $2 million for their property to have that road come through.
I wish I was a Spence. No, Union Point is not really a big issue right there, man.
It's a non-issue.
Right. What else is that? There was something else I wanted to ask you about, but no, never mind. Can't think of it now. Anything else? Mary, Sherry, go ahead.
Yeah, I just,
An address if you're talking about as a resident.
no,
Go.
as a commissioner. Sorry, I should have said this, but I wanted to make everyone aware that the governor lifted the emergency order so that future meetings are required to be in person.
Excuse me?
Future meetings will be required to be in person. The governor has lifted the emergency order.
Okay.
So our ability to meet remotely,
We're talking about the July meeting.
anything going forward.
Did you see that? I'm not questioning you, but did you see that in a formal writing?
If you go on mass.gov and look under the governor's updates, it's in there.
I wonder how, Robin, do we have to check with the town of that, or you wouldn't
Well,
agree?
usually Clifford sends out a memo to Doug and Doug shares it with all of us, but I didn't see anything today and I was there until about 5, so.
Okay, until we hear from Doug, then we'll keep everything Zoom. Right?
It's lifted. No, it's lifted.
Okay.
I know Plymouth County put something out notifying everybody that the emergency order was rescinded.
Okay, then I'll plan on the July meeting being in person unless I hear otherwise.
Yep.
Again, that'll be down the sewer department.
I have one more question.
Sure.
Could we have the EPA draft order put up on the website and any other documents that are public that need to be put on that website?
Mary, I asked that, and let me see if I have it in writing what I was told. Hold on one second. We don't have it, but what I was told, and Sherry, Dan, correct me, where that order went to the town turned it over to the lawyers, the town lawyers and EPA lawyers. So it's in the hand of legal counsel, which makes that privileged information for a potential not going to happen lawsuit or legal action. That's why it could not be discussed in open session. That is what I was told. My personal understanding was that these draft orders are up on the EPA website. But you know, if that's how the town wants to handle it, I'm gonna bow to that because don't want to get into hot water again, quite honestly.
So are they planning on suing the EPA?
No, I would say no.
Then it should be able to be put up on the website.
All right, Mary, all I can go by, please, is what they tell me. I have to, attorneys tell me I have to do. I was told in Sherry and
We have
Dan,
been instructed not to release information until it's finalized.
I wanted to, and I was told not to. Now, the second I get that, okay, I'm gonna have a separate meeting. I'll have that order posted so people can read it. I'll go over it, correction by just so you know.
Just put it on the website when it's ready.
I'm gonna put it up on the website when it's released. And I'll post up I'll put up what we put up for our corrective actions, and I'll discuss every single one of them if you want to. I mean, I think personally, they could have killed us, but I think they demonstrated they want to work with us. I mean, I think we exhibited commitment to them this time. But again.
They haven't said that they're suing them. They're just holding it up.
Yes.
So we cannot discuss this now. We cannot discuss this.
We were told flat out not to. And like I said, I'm just trying to give you as much reason as I can without crossing that line.
Okay, so they're not suing them, but they're not letting it out.
They're not letting it out right now.
That's the way it looks.
I don't know what to tell you, Mary. I really don't. I don't know what to say. So that's all I'm going to say. Anything else? With that said, I'll take a motion to end.
Oh, there's one more question. What did you decide on Level Academy earlier?
Level Academy, I wanted to reach out to Level Academy to give them an opportunity to come in if they wanted to make a pitch for a connection to get on the pending list. They're not going to be approved, as was made very clear to them, within at least 6 to 8 months. My guess, to be a realistic guess, is probably 10 months to a year before we can allow another connection, until we get that 67,500 out. I'll see if they want to come in and go for a plan, but according to Dave, they're going to go septic.
Is that the ice skate rink?
The academy adjacent to the rink, we're behind
But
them.
that's in Union Point, so that shouldn't even be.
That's not Union Point.
Not Union Point.
Isn't?
No,
No,
Oh, I thought it was.
no, that was private property outside of the former military base.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So it's outside the base, but they access it through Delahunt Parkway.
Yes. And that is also owned by the SRA. That's not base property either.
Robin, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Did you have any further discussions with Dave on Union Point? On Level? Do you think we should warrant bringing them in and give him an opportunity, knowing that they're at least, if they connect, it's going to be 6 to 10 months to a year?
I did not. I mean, when he
I'll call
spoke,
Dave tomorrow.
right, because when he spoke to them, he did tell them that it was 6 to 8 months, and the feeling then was that they would go with the septic.
All right, let's leave it at that. There's one less connection we got to worry about. We won't apply, they know what's going on. Mr. Gray certainly knows what's going on.
I think I need to clear up one issue. Is everyone's thought process is the Delahunt Parkway is all on the former Naval Air Station, South Weymouth.
Oh.
It's not. Once you pass going over Old Swamp River and that bridge, it turns into the Delahunt private parkway that's in the town of Rockland, not the base. So the section that is going to the skate rink and the Level Academy is on the private parkway owned by the SRA, but it's not part of the former Naval Air Station. It's in the town of Rockland. And private road, not even a town road,
That was between the bridge and the Rockland.
right?
With that, I'll entertain a motion to end tonight's meeting, and I want to just make sure we have our things scheduled here. I lost my papers. That our next meeting will be on a Wednesday night, July 19th, it looks like.
19th, it says the 20th on here.
I did connect that. Yeah,
20.
it's a Wednesday. Okay. So our next meeting will be July 20th. I will plan live unless we hear otherwise.
And do we have a potential, certainly some working meetings before then?
Yeah, I'm gonna try to get something out. I'll have Robin put something out to you probably Tuesday. Where
We have a lot to do.
yes, we do. But
Okey-doke.
unfortunately, holidays and what have you is sticking in there too. Okay, with that, I'll take a motion in tonight's meeting.
Motion.
Second,
I have a second. All in favor, Mr. DeRoss,
yes.
Ms. Valley,
Yes.
Mr. Hutchins, yes. Dan, Sherry, thank you very much. Rick, you too. Robin, thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
I didn't end this, Chuck.